Hello and good evening to everyone. Thank you thank you also to the panel for coming. I'm going to introduce them in a second. First, I wanted to remind you about the next IxDA Munich event. We have in October the Australian designer Vivid Savitri, who will offer the talk what we can learn from video games. And in November we have Birgit Geiberger, who will come from Amsterdam to present Communicating in Style, which is a talk about how personalities and communication styles affect the design process. I also want to thank Stephan for the continued support to the interaction design community and for hosting the event today. So today we are going to discuss about hot UX topics. I hope you also have questions. This discussion is not only to listen, we hope that you participate also. So, the panel. Stephan Riess, Head of Design and UX at 1&1 Mail and Media. Stefan has been directing in the last decade design and user experience in one of the biggest German internet companies. And in the past, he also worked at the largest online retailer, Amazon. Stefan Dinter, Senior Manager Corporate Design at ERGO, Direkt Versicherungen. Stefan has been managing corporate and user experience design for several companies. He teaches at the Friedrich Alexander Universität Erlangen-Nürnberg and is representative of the Alliance of German Designers, e.V. Sebastian, Fabre, User Experience Manager at Fujitsu. Sebastian manages design, usability, and usage-related activities at Fujitsu in Munich. In the past, he worked for other renowned companies like France Telecom, Kodak, and Intel. And I'm Alexis, Brion, an interaction designer at amiando GmbH. So, to start, I have some questions that the people sent me. We're gonna start with them, and later you're gonna have the opportunity to make your questions. So let's start with the first one. So a lot of designers are discussing at the moment about Chris Knowles' book, Evil by Design. I don't know if you heard about it. In that book, Chris presents many techniques to persuade or deceive customers. My question is, if designers are responsible for the impact of their work in the context of a persuasive or evil design, let's say. So, Stefan.
Okay, I think yes, we're totally responsible for what we do until the smallest detail, and I mean we have a lot of influence on the life of people, and we should be totally aware about this. Even if we have a stressed life, we have dependencies, we have to feed our families, we want to go to holiday, we need maybe the money what the company pays us, but still I think it's completely important if somebody wants to be a really good designer that he does good things, and good things means that something good happens to the people who use this design or their software. Can you people actually hear me, or sometimes it's a little... Okay, good. So, yeah, and I personally, I would rather prefer to leave the company without security instead to doing something what I just don't like to do. And I will give you have to stop me if I'm too long about this. I'll give you a short example, because we have in our portals also erotic kind of a channel. So one time the management was asking me, so somebody has to work for this, and we have to drive traffic there and all this should I say it? You record this, but bullshit arguments at this point, you know. And I said, yeah, okay, I understand the business, but I personally will not work on that. And also, I will not force anybody who works for me to work on it. So, this is the setting. Actually, one time somebody just did it of the team and said, yeah, okay, it's not so bad, and it was also okay in the end what they did. And one time we just didn't do it. So somebody else had to do it. So, but I need this for me. I don't want to come home and tell my family that this is what we have done. You know, I would never do it. So.
Sounds fair.
I guess a designer do a lot of simplification, and if you do a lot of simplification, you get a lot of problems. Even in the manner of but things like you just talked about, not that much erotic web pages probably, but you take the opinion of users, and probably the users don't even recognize that there's opinion driven by my design only. Dieter Rams once said that a good design is a design that will never be recognized, and so every designer should be awareness of what kind of stuff he's finally doing, or what result is he producing. That's my opinion.
Yeah, so the question was also if a designer can influence human behavior. I think it's not, it's not really the case. I think human behavior is like it is. Probably users don't expect designers to influence their behavior. If they were aware of that, they would probably not be quite happy about it. If you take the example of your pornography website, I don't think if the website is
something different.
I think the human behavior itself won't change. People will still do it, and no matter if it's well designed or not. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. So bad behavior can't be really influenced, I guess. Positive behavior can be maybe rewarded. That's an interesting track. I think there is a lot of things happening in specific fields at the moment, I guess, for environment and how you can contribute to a better environment and make people aware of that. That's also quite a marketing aspect of things, and a good thing for communication for enterprise. So just communication, but maybe in that respect we can influence human behaviors, but I don't think we can go much beyond.
May I add something?
Sure.
Because I give you a big example. There's also small examples, you know, actually, as if this was more from the point of view of a designer and how he feels when he does his job. But also, we can make lives better of people, very small things. And the example I have for you, I just traveled abroad from Greece to Italy, Germany. Today we arrived. We went a big part with the ferry boat. And on this ferry boat, you have a Wi-Fi connection. You have to buy a ticket for 24 hours Wi-Fi connection, which is very slow. But this I figured out only later. So you get a username and a password. And when you go to the website, it's the other way around. Password and then username. It took me 3 times of not so nice minutes because I had to fiddle it on my iPhone until I was logged in, until I read that it was switched. Why? Nobody thought about this. And so we designers, we should think about this, and we would make people's life nicer because they could use this time to sit there and watch the sea, and not to take this little receipt and then try it and then it doesn't work, and You know, this is a very small example. And we're responsible for this. These people who did this, they're responsible for this 5 minutes I lost on the team.
And the bad mood as well. Also, users appropriate things in their own way, and I guess this kind of situation can be avoided if you do user observation and maybe simply observing users and learning from them. Then I guess if it's like that, then designers' behavior can be influenced by users.
Could be even much better. Everybody pays €5 more for the ticket and the Wi-Fi is free and I just go there and connect myself. That's it, done.
Yeah.
And I'm sure nobody would have a problem with that.
And what about if let's say the example or the design is more directly connected to money? Like for example, Amazon is telling you, well, when you're looking at the product page, it says, well, now there are only 3 available, right? So you have to act now.
Hurry up.
Yeah, hurry up. So we are influencing the person, right?
We're used to that. We all go to Aldi and Lidl and watch out. Only next week we have this very nice whatever thing. So.
Yeah, that's typically like sales TV. I mean, you may have a big pressure against customers. Probably you need to buy now, not in 10 minutes or something, because it's sold out. And still, when I look to my company, it's very business-driven. The clients are probably always the sales department, and they give things like, if you click here right now, if you don't click here right now, you don't get an umbrella or something else. I mean, a giveaway like that. We don't do that right now because in the brand value is declared that we want to make things transparency and easy and clear and understandable and truly, and break down until the bottom is that somebody is speaking for the company. It's always the CEO. We don't have a testimonial or something like that. We always have the CEO, and that's customers don't believe us that this is the CEO person of the company. They think about another testimonial, or that's quite hard if you argument with very true things today in the advertising world around.
Do the people know who your CEO is? I mean,
Mr. Endless.
Said, I'm the boss of this company and trust my word. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, we do have things like that as well. The people know who are the CEO in the company. Is that what your question is?
Yeah, I've never heard of him.
You never heard
No.
about?
Probably he's not very present.
Oh, he's always present. And on TV he is present, on the website he's present, and probably on direct marketing. Insurance company comes from direct marketing. Always when somebody's telling about the company, it's always the CEO.
Okay. You want to add something?
Just when I got the question, I did a bit of research and I found something quite interesting. Maybe if someone can answer the question, that would be interesting. I mean, one of the examples of how you can't really influence behavior and can't really predict what users will do with what you provide them with was this typical text message story invented by mobile operators to communicate to terminals, but not from users to users. So just a figure, so in 2011 there were 200,000 text messages sent every second. And I have a question for you. I found it an interesting website. I mean, do you know who the first guy who sent a text message? Does anyone know the name? The guy has his own website and is invited to TV shows and everything just because he sent the first text message. He wrote the content of the first text message. You know it?
No, I just know that the technicians were the first ones who used it.
That's
so,
right. Yeah. His name is Neil Fabre, and the first message he sent was "Merry Christmas." Well. And it was in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
So that's maybe another aspect of things. It's like human behavior is influenced, but sometimes many years later.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have some questions related to the way we work. There are some new trends like the Lean UX, for example, that are changing how we do our stuff. Some say that we have to do research, others are skipping that and send their designs directly to production, to test it directly on the field, or maybe just to be consumed as it is. So what's better? A brilliant designer that creates what the people need, or a horde of researchers delivering what people want?
Yeah, I will try to answer you that also using examples. So, yeah, now it comes. Maybe somebody have noticed this alien-like. Who knows what is that? I don't mean this nice little thing. I mean the other one. Nobody knows what that is. This is, I will tell you, it's not an NSA tracker. It's an activity device. It's called Shine, which is called Misfit. And I backed them because I thought these are nice people, this is a nice device. Also for me, I'm getting older, I have to know how much exercise they do, blah, blah, blah. So I bought, or I gave them the money and then I forgot about this. And so someday this thing arrived at my doorstep and I was really, I thought, oh wow, now here it is. And I opened this Apple-like box and there was some drawings inside. And I had to make it a bit shorter. You have to put in the battery, and there's a little tool to open this thing, to fit in the battery, and this little tool is made with a harder metal than the case. Understand? You know what happens if you put a hard metal on a soft metal? So I tried it 2 times and this thing was broken. So then I wrote to them, so what to do? I went to this website with videos and everything was very well designed and beautiful, but still it didn't work. And then they sent me to the watchmaker and said, yeah, okay, we're very sorry about it. Go to the watchmaker, they will do it for you. And so I sent my son to the watchmaker, he put the battery there with the question that my son has to tell them what it is, what they're doing. And I think he told them as far as he knew at that time. So, story goes on. Then this thing was working. And I was trying to synchronize it. And you need an app for this, and it was not written on the package, but on the website. And then I don't like really so much anymore to use my desktop computer, so but I had to start it for this just to see the video in a proper quality. All right, it worked, it worked, but it was injured, because of the scratches. So and then we went on holiday. They said that this is waterproof for swimming. I went swimming, and then this was the last time I've seen any light on this device. And then I wrote to them, and then they said that they're very sorry and probably it's broken and blah, blah, blah. And now, today I came back and there were 2 new ones in my post box, which is great, because these guys, they understood that they screwed it up. They screwed it, and this was the best thing what they could do. They even sent me 2.
Yeah, because in case the other one is broken.
Yeah, and they changed the tools also. Now it went wonderful. I put the battery there. And then I thought, and now I'm going to synchronize it. Guess what happened? Just guess. Any guesses? What happened when I tried to synchronize? This is an iPhone 4.
Union version.
Yes. we're very sorry, this device doesn't sync with your iPhone because it uses what is this, Bluetooth, I don't know which number, 4 or 5, whatever, I don't care. So it just doesn't work. These guys, they asked me to buy a new phone to use their device. So, yeah, so somebody had a brilliant idea and made a nice design. I still wear this, I think it's beautiful. But it just doesn't work, and I don't know what they did. But on the other hand side, you have also things where apparently they did lots of workshops and focus groups, and I know I forgot my example for that, but I think you see this everywhere, you know, in terminals, especially bank terminals and bank processes, or e-commerce. You know, I was checking out an e-commerce site from somewhere in Asia. And I mean, I think they throw 10 pop-ups in my face. And I wanted to buy something there. You know, and I know people who work in this company, and they're very number-driven, and I know that they had agencies, they did tests, and psychologists with cameras and blah, 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 but I had to click away this very slow pop-ups. They sent me emails with the huge JPEGs inside, which they load very slowly when you're abroad somewhere. But they have a perfect research. They did a perfect research on it. But apparently they had nobody who had a vision and the understanding and idea how to make quick decisions. So to round it up, I personally, I believe more in experience and intuition, because these are very complex problems. If we try to solve these problems every time with a huge kind of research, it will cost lots of money and will not solve the problem. We have a printer in our office. I'm sure they did a lot of research on this thing, and it just doesn't work. It's a constant pain, you know, it makes you feel pain and gives you a bad mood. But they paid a lot of research. So I would prefer to have one good designer, UX person there, and it just based on the experience makes the decision, and then it works. So this is my opinion about that.
I mean, today you need a lot of partners inside a company, business partners, of course, because that's where the money are, and you need some money to make a new product that should be innovative or bring some new functionality. And on the other side, you need the designers to make the innovation actually. So you need both actually. You need researchers, because you need to show where are that you can place your product on the market. On the one hand, I mean that must not probably part of the same team, but you need these people to go on. And if design is starting, you need technologists as well. I think that you need a good connection between designers, strategists, and technologists, better than now. And it was always a pleasure to work for teams that are mixed up with different people. And that was quite fun. For example, at Frog Design, that's over 10 years ago, but we had some very good innovations there, and it was payable on the one hand, and it was an innovation on the other hand, and we had a final product at the end. And that's a little thing that doesn't work today so much. You have a good visualization by, let's say, Photoshop or something, but it's not working. And on the other hand, you have a good good product, it's innovation and technology innovation probably, or a new interface or whatever. But the understanding of the technology is not so good. And you still need the people who are paying all these things, the designers, and so you need the business people or stakeholders as well. And you can't go to the stakeholders and say, hey, I have a good idea and it costs 50,000 euros and they do something. Stakeholders want to be sure on one hand. And in the manner of insurances, like my company, the people are not so risky. So they need to know that it comes more value out of the product than they give in. So
They have to know it upfront.
of course. And another thing is it was like a big project at Frog that time that they used to develop a server that people, the stakeholders, could show up how far the development phases are. And it's like a scale, and they could just press a key and show, or they pop up the product itself. It looks like that, and tomorrow it's a little bit different or whatever. And then they could say, hey, I deliver this one to my customers. And they should say, okay, I want to implement, let's say, a special functionality, and it costs 1,000 euros more, whatever. And they say, hey, that's a good idea. That's what I want to have, and I want to pay it. And they deliver just in time. That they want to have it. And the client itself says, okay, we do it with that functionality and try it out and bring it to market just in time. And Philips did something similar, I think, with ghetto plastic. In English, you say ghetto plastic. And they asked people on the website, I mean, it's 10 years ago, or more than 10 years, they asked the people, you want to have more buses, and it costs 50 euros more, or 50 Deutsche Mark at that time. And the people could vote on the website, and then said, okay, we want to have that functionality, they bring it on the market with that functionality, and it costs just 50 euros more.
Was it successful, this process?
I guess 10 or 15 years ago, maybe too early to things like that, because it was very hard to implement a technique like that, because it was the connection on the services were very bad. From 3D to the photo to the website to bring up the information. It was quite a hard work. Maybe too expensive at that time.
That's the problem. What do people want, and does it really matter? Do people know what they want? And can a designer just on his own understand and design what people need? I think it's the role of the researchers to find out what people really need, not by questioning people what they want. But it's very unlikely as well for a designer to come up with a product that people need without any research behind. It's very difficult for companies. I mean, I had the chance to work for Orange at the group level, so there was a lot of money, and we could afford to spend 100,000 euros on the research, who at the end said, well, no, let's not go in this direction. It's not, but most companies, as soon as they spend €1, they have to make sure that there's something coming out of it. Otherwise, people will get blamed pay for it. People won't have a job to do because they are product managers or product owners. So yeah, you end up in a situation where you need to find out what people need when you know really that it's not the case, or you just make up interesting features for users.
So
I have another issue. Mostly the feedback of a product or implementation of the functionality, you get bad feedback. You never get good feedback. Nobody is saying, hey, that's great, page or graphical user interface, I want to have it. But people say, I don't know how that will be functional or whatever. That's a bad thing. That's because I think we need a research beneath the problem after the delivery to prove it's really working or it's not working.
Also, if you have to deal with product owners who are really wimps, it's difficult because they always want numbers, But usually they don't really question the numbers, In the end, I experienced lots of situations where we had numbers and still it was not done that way, because there was just somebody there in the chain who didn't want it to happen. For example, I had the honor, a long time ago, I was redesigning the order process of Amazon. So at that day I was not really aware how big this thing is. I just did this on my way, or on my way, and I did some also user tests. I went to France and England, and I did a little test and blah blah blah. And then in the end, it seemed like it works a little bit better, until the really higher management or upper manager, or until Jeff Bezos himself, they got aware of that. And there was one thing what they told me. They said, Jeff, he doesn't like gray. And also we don't know if these numbers are really so good, because we have to test it again, and then the whole thing was dead, but it was dead because the wrong person did it, because there was no business backup, and because Jeff doesn't like gray. So yeah, I could have done research of the whole world and spent lots of money and blah blah blah, still Jeff, he wouldn't like gray.
Yeah, it's happening a lot as well. You do. Sorry, just quickly. I happen to see very great products who didn't go into production. At Kodak, I did some focus group together with an American UX research company that came over to Europe, and I was assisting them, and we did some testing on a device who pretty much was an iPad. It was about sharing photos and showing photos to people on a bigger screen, and was just great, brilliant feedback. But you know what is happening to Kodak today, so they never really did it.
Sad.
Happened also at France Telecom on many other occasions. Sometimes you also need to communicate. It's very difficult to communicate that something is very good and very likely to be successful.
No, you just think that maybe this is the way how it should work, because for in your opinion, okay, I take this, I do like this, and it's good, but you have to convince the client. It's often like this, you have to convince that it needs numbers and researchers that this is the way how people behave. And you have no measurement until then how they will behave. How can you push it through? How can you convince the client?
It's totally true. Yeah. Actually, you need the numbers if you have to convince somebody.
But what do you do?
Many times I have to convince people by numbers, and sometimes I don't have the numbers, and then I just have to give them examples, show something else which is done the same way. I don't know, I even linked sometimes the graph of a share or holder value to innovation to convince people, and they were just staring at me and they didn't understand what I wanted to show or to tell them. It's difficult. You have to be able to translate your designer view into a business point of view, which is a quite difficult task. Yeah. Well, maybe my background, I'm an architect. You know, I studied architecture. Also, I built, or worked at least in buildings. Now, what we did, which is really it's a bad thing, but we did this, and at least in my study, that we made something nice and beautiful, and afterwards we found all the reasons why we did that way, and that was the way how we sold it. And sometimes this also works for design. I wouldn't suggest this because it's kind of a black hat way to do things, but sometimes maybe you also have to do something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it depends on the interface. If you can measure probably the hotline time, because of an interface that doesn't work or whatever. If you have less hotline time to pay as a stakeholder, that's a very big issue why interface should be changed. Probably that could be an ansatz.
Yeah, this is always a good idea, of course, but you have to have these numbers, you know, sometimes, or many times the numbers are not there, you know, they're asking for numbers and nobody knows how to generate them. And then, what is the answer? Not to design anything because there are no numbers?
If you're working on known products or websites where there's some kind of best practice, then it's easier to know what to do. Also to know what the user probably would expect. But if you're of course working on innovative products or on new products in general, I think then the extent or the demand for research increases in that way. So it's just like a comment to it.
I think now I understand why I had a comment, and then when you said you're an architect, I sort of changed my comment because I think it's a bit traditional to go from the intuition. It's something that designers used to do. Dinter maybe did, and all the designers that came from architecture background, which was very common, they worked by intuition, and that made sense. Now the competition is too high, and the market is too different. And it's even, and the next step is talking about numbers. Okay, we're getting a bit less traditional when we take numbers into account, but even better, and I think even makes more sense when you take qualitative data into account. So when we talk about what users say, not numbers, but like actual, when you think about researchers with video cameras. I'm a researcher, and I'm also a design researcher, and when I take videos, it makes more sense when you show the stakeholders what the user has actually said. It's not anonymous anymore. Now it makes more sense when you have a face related to the code. And you don't need to convince somebody. You don't need to come up with a design and then justify your design. Your design should come from these, I think, like today, the design should come from a qualitative and quantitative data. So, yeah, when I design something and I have to justify it using some numbers, or then this is not the modern way to design. That was the old way. And one more thing, like when you don't know how to generate the numbers, then you get somebody who can generate the numbers and ask the right questions. And then you have the answers that could come up with a better design and with a usable design. And last comment also, that because he doesn't like gray is just a skin. It's not the way that the service works. I think it was just a last touch on the thing that he didn't maybe like. But the service and the ordering process, it's a whole service related to different parts in the background rather than just the interface.
I mean, I just want to stress this point that we are all humans. We don't work with numbers. Our brain doesn't work with numbers. It just doesn't. Yeah. This is the newest part of our brain, is this logic part. It's very young. It has a very low bandwidth. Very low. It's like a modem with a phone. Our visual bandwidth and intuitive bandwidth is, I don't know, 100,000 times powerful. I did this since 20 years, more or less. I always fiddled around with these numbers, and usually, you know, if somebody doesn't like to do the project, you know, because he has trouble with his wife or husband, you can give him the best numbers of the world. Also, I did video, we did at least audio and video recordings with users, and it was very clear in the feedback. What happened? Nothing, because they just, it's well, these are just a few users. We have so many. This is just their love, You get?
Yeah.
I mean, you people know that, or maybe it's just in my world like that. But they just wipe it from the table. They say, okay, now here I'm the owner, and I decide it's like that, and now just go and do your job.
I think that's why designers don't want to work for corporates anymore. We just rather work for startups where they have the mind for it.
Yeah, sometimes.
Sometimes it seems that you don't have, as a designer, you don't have the time to do all the thinking or all the research. So, do designers need to speed up, or stakeholders to slow down?
Yeah, this is another difficult one, because it's depending on, By my experience, I think that usually business takes much too long. They take the time, all the time of the world, because they have to contracts and to have to talk with this person and that person, and nobody knows if this really happens. I mean, positive, I assume that they do that, Sometimes I'm not so sure if this really happens. And then after a long time, and then they come over with the actual project. And then they expect the developers and designers, so we work very close together with development, to handle or bring this project on the road very fast, and they question everything, and you're going to do testing, this will take a long time. We don't have to do that, because afterwards we're going to do an iterative process, and already if somebody tells you that, you should really make sure if this is going to happen, because if it's not too bad, this iteration will not happen afterwards, because it already makes money, and that's maybe enough. So, I think business should be faster, and they should really understand that that iteration, the way to develop projects and products in an iterative way is good for business. It's not a waste of time. So, stakeholders should be faster, and of course, designers and developers and the user experience designers. It's I wouldn't say they should be slower.
Stefan?
Yeah. I think if there's depends on where the idea comes from. If the idea comes from the innovation team, and probably from designers or stakeholders or whatever, they still have their own innovation teams, then it could be both. If you make a very small research, like there's a thing about, it's called Attractive from Mark Hassenthal. It's free on the webpage, you can download it. Have some questions, and you have 2 until 12 users or customers. And then you can clarify it's worth to work on it, or leave it by. Maybe that could be an idea to start, and a good idea probably. And the best ideas are the quick and dirty ideas probably, and because they have a very powerful impact, I guess, because they are just a little, people are involved, not too much, maybe 4 or 5 or just one person, and then you have a good communication between the people, because they probably know each other, and that's a real thing, I think. You need a good communication and interface between people.
So my point of view is that you need to, well, if you can afford it, if you can manage to, you have to cheat a little bit and start your research before the project gets an official go, because otherwise it's too late. I had the experience this summer where I got the go for a website redesign for some company who joined, well, who got acquired by Fujitsu. Something like 2 weeks ago, but hopefully I started working on the project months earlier. So take some risk, bet that you're going to be, well, the project will really happen. If not, obviously it's a bit annoying. But because I did it, now I'm in a good position to complete the project on time and to deliver something not necessarily quick and dirty.
I got a question related to Scrum. So we are trying to shift our process more into an agile environment, but so far our developers, they are more comfortable when the design team works on the designs first, and then they get the ready designs, like as in the old world. And obviously they would suggest, okay, then the design team just starts earlier, that we basically keep the waterfall model as it is. But how do you do that then if you do agile, but the design starts somewhat earlier? Because then it's not really agile, because then it's basically called agile, but it's still waterfall, where the design is first, and then come the techies.
Yeah,
Waterfall.
Yeah. Exactly.
it's not perfect, you're right, it's a good point. But the design now in an agile way is not stuck as well, it's not on paper, it's digital, and you still have plenty of room to make changes and adapt things depending on what's doable, technology speaking, or given the time developers have to implement the feature. You can make some compromise, fortunately. But it's still good to have something at first, and then you have the possibility to make changes on some requirement management.
Many of us are at the moment acting in hybrid and not so well-defined roles. We participate in the product discovery phase. We have to design with the user and the business in mind, and we deliver more than just wireframes, right? So the question that many managers are asking themselves is if the UX designer should become the new product owner. And if so, how will teams look like then?
Somebody else want to start?
Yeah, maybe.
Keep this question.
Yeah. So
well, in order to, well, first of all, I joined Fujitsu 5 years ago now, because one of the reasons was because my direct report was the CEO of the company, so locally in Munich, but it was high enough to influence things. And since then we moved to Scrum, and things shifted a little bit. We now have a VP product management, and in order to adapt to that, I did, for instance, a training last year, a certification on product management. So now I'm pretty much in the same level, or at least I can't get told by a product manager that I'm not, or product owner that I'm not at the same level of knowledge or experience. I can speak the same language, and I can show I'm certified also. So maybe we have to shift, adapt a little bit to this this direction, become product owners. I'm not quite sure about it. I mean, has to stay the way it is.
I mean, a visual designer is a product owner. There are other responsibilities that is used to be as a designer, and of course that would be a great experience if the schedule will be made by a designer, probably. But I still think it's not the time to do that. It's my opinion is that we don't even have the one genius designer anymore. I mean, it's not even teamwork, it's more like environment work. You have a lot of impact from different perspectives, and the designer has his own perspective, of course. And so the product owner normally has another perspective, and I guess that's what you mean as well. I mean, you probably need the insight, and the designer has another insight. So it's a bad thing to just get the product owner. Probably you need another process. I mean, it's a scrum process, probably, as a product designer. And yeah, it should be a process that's community driven, probably. That would be a great idea, but I don't have an answer on that.
Yes. You want to know why? Because the UX and the design sets the product apart. We will live in a world where everything becomes the same, more or less. We will use the same technologies, products use the same technologies. And the experience is critical for the success of the product. Of course, old school is you have marketing budget, and if you have your big company and lots of marketing budget, and so you can press any product, even if it's nothing's that great, into the market until your marketing budget is over, and because your numbers will go down afterwards. But maybe nobody's interested anymore in this. Well, first place, you make a bit of money and success, but this will not work in the future because this will become more and more like that. Technology is available for everybody. It's becoming more and more similar, and experience makes the difference. And okay, maybe the UX person becomes really the product owner is a bit provocative, yeah. But at least these people who run the business, they should have a background, they should have a real background, they should have an understanding of this is what is going on there. Because what I see that they're really in this spreadsheet world, and spreadsheets is always the past, Spreadsheet-driven management is like you're driving without a screen in front of your car. You're just watching how is this called? This little thing, this mirror on the side, and then you assume, because you see something in the back, that in the future something else is going to happen. I mean, this is over. We're in the 21st century, not in the 20s. Also with this, just a second, another critical thing is that usually design and UX is a cost center. This is the first place where it gets wrong, because design, user experience, so my bosses, they will also see that. It's not a cost center. It's critical for the success of any business, and should take also part in this success. Why does it not happen? Because it's difficult. Because it's very hard to measure the success of design and to measure the part or the share of design and UX has in the success of a product. So the simple solution is to keep them out. You're just a cost center, we pay you, but actually we're the product owners, and with our nice Excel world, we make this product successful. Yes, I'm accelerating a little bit, but I guess everybody knows what I'm comment.
I think when the UX designer becomes the product owner, the user experience from the final product will go down. Because as a product owner, you have to be aware of a lot of these things like this budget, these political, these decisions, the CEO, and you cannot be so provocative like a UX designer. And you cannot. So you have to be aware of so many things, these commercial things.
You have to be strong.
Yeah, but you can be strong when you're complete, because I'm working as a project manager and as a UX designer, and it's always hard for me to make the switch from being a project manager, looking for the budget, looking for the resources, for the time, or making the design good at a high quality, and this is always, yes, it's not a good combination. And as a product owner, I think you have to be aware of, especially at the budget and the resources.
You're completely right. They will have other people, experts, for them crunching the numbers. Doesn't mean that you are suddenly, as a UX person, you have to have completely understanding of the business. but you have to have somebody else who gives you this understanding. You know, if you're alone, of course you're lost, and probably you're right. Experience will go down because you will think about your family and how long you're going to keep the job, and ooh, not to be too risky with these numbers. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, the problem also with UX owning the product is we are falling into the categories of functional and non-functional requirements, and UX stuff is non-functional, which makes it also difficult to measure, but not impossible. And at the moment, I guess people product knows much more value functional requirements, actual code and implementation of features. So that might be an issue as well for UX person to manage both sides. I think we can be very good at managing this non-functional aspect, and also set very better way of measuring it by always not only putting some UX feature on the product, but also on setting some measure of achievement. What would be the minimum level of acceptance when you can say this feature has been successful, and what would be the optimum one. So not only one which says everybody's happy, but something like, say, 70% of the people are happy at the minimum successful. Yeah, so I guess it makes it impossible for a UX person to truly be a real product owner in this. Today, yeah.
If any of you ever experienced a project where a UX designer was asked about his opinion was you could get rid of lots of bells and whistles, lots of extras, keep it simpler to the minimum. That would help the project by being finished faster, by being kept simpler, by the entire system being much easier to use. Have you ever, as a side note, ever tried to optimize the UX of one of your printers or copy scan machines? It's awful. These machines are a pain.
Because there is a product owner for each button. And
it's a mess, really. But have you ever experienced that? That the UX came out with the result, we should keep it simpler, that would reduce costs in the end.
I did at a project for Orange, redesigning the home screen of the mobile device, and there were 48 features to implement on at the time a Nokia 360 screen. Yeah.
Yeah, but this would also be the advantage of the UX person, because usually designers, and especially UX designers, they have more holistic view. And I believe a good UX designer is also able to understand a business and also to evaluate the different aspects of a business against each other, given that the data is really there and it's not a dream of somebody. No? So, like you said, everybody has its owner, so there has to be somebody who is coordinating all these different tasks and ideas and challenges and business numbers. And I think UX persons, they wouldn't be wrong for that. Usually they feel always a bit weak and small, and nobody asks us, and we always have to run and blah, blah, blah. But people are able, I'm totally convinced that UX people, at least the people I work with, and they would be able to understand this and also take decisions there. And I hope also that the experience would not go down afterwards.
You are talking about a manager who has the empathy of seeing the whole thing.
Also, you as a manager, you have to make decisions, or you have to stand for something. You have to have a vision. This is what we see many times. It's not there anymore. It's just single persons, and they're completely driven by their KPIs and question everything. They always demand speed, but they don't give speed by themselves because they don't take decisions clear and fast. There's many of them, and they're not even really responsible for this. It's like I'm talking about huge companies, because they're so complex. There's so many side effects, and then everything really gets slow, and then you end up with owners for every link and for every sub-product and blah, 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 and then it gets slower, until it's completely stopped, and you have a complete complexity. It's the opposite of a good user experience.
Some companies implement people like it's called service design. They look all the way the customer's running through the pages probably, or until a product is sold or whatever. And that's quite nice impacts of the service designers with the eyes of a designer.
Service design is the new black. Yeah, you know, because it's always easy to make fun about somebody who is creative. You know, this is what happened. Look, they did another nice thing. Don't forget that we have to make money. Yeah. And yeah, this takes a lot of durability. Is this the right word? Resilience. You know, this to be strong and try it again and again and again and again, and also. Yeah, show that you are successful, that the products are successful because also you did it or your team did it. In my case, the team does these things and pull these people in the front and promote their name and tell them, look, he did this and such thing, and this is why it is good as it is. And okay, then also some funny comments. Usually they come, but yeah, at least it. I mean, I don't have a magic. Something I don't know. I do lots of different things, and sometimes this works, and sometimes that don't work.
Do you think that the user experience methods that are used now, or your approach, are going to change because of that? Because you have to take into account a lot more degrees of freedom compared to before.
It was nice all of the old times where we had a nice screen, which was big as this, deep like that. These times are over. Yeah? Context is very important, and so service design is something which really takes care for context, to see the whole user journey. I mean, for me personally, it's more this service design approach, really from the first touch point of a customer or user with a brand until he finished whatever he has to do there, you know, really to have everything in the view and to understand everything, and then really to create a user experience. Doesn't matter how is the environment.
Yeah, there are not so many projects where you can afford to check everything on, well, develop on different platforms at the same time. You will first start with a desktop version and then say, oh, let's do a mobile version of it, maybe an app. And it's not so, well, at least on my side, it's not so much the case that we have the ability to see the whole vision of how we can make a full, meaningful experience from one device to another, from 8 in the morning to late in the evening. So the best we can do at the moment is to do some responsive design, and that's already one thing better than it used to be before, but it's not the best situation. I know Microsoft has been doing something quite cool with the way to start an email from your PC and keep on writing it on your device further automatically, so everything was in the cloud. This kind of project must be very interesting, very enjoyable as well to have the ability to figure the full picture at one time. But it's not, yeah, it's not always possible.
But in the matter of insurances, there are a lot of innovation and cool screens and good ideas. There are a very high level on that is the security itself, because you are not allowed to write special data to some databases or to call data from several databases. And so the insurance apps you find on the app stores today, they are just a little thing from what actually is thought about the app that should or could do the app itself. I mean, today you could sell the Kfz insurance, auto car insurance that could be cheaper than you drive slower, than you drive faster. But we have a tiny little app. There you can say, okay, tomorrow I'm going skiing and I will have Unfall, whatever.
Accident.
What?
Accident.
Okay, thanks. For just a weekend for 99 cents, I think it works. But in Germany, you need 24 hours before you need to say, I want to have the insurance because of Bundesregierung said you need 24 hours before the insurance actually starts. And then, yeah, you have all these dependencies. And that's quite difficult. Even if we have good developers and the security is working very well, you have all these dependencies.
What makes you better as a designer to say what's right and what's wrong than other team members?
First, I wouldn't say that my intuition or my decisions are better than anybody else's. Maybe the difference is that I take the decisions, somebody else not, you know. And I mean, we have these ideas, you know, that the designers, they do something and then they run around in the black turtleneck and then everybody has to obey. But this is over, this is also not my point of view. My point of view is just that you have to follow the flow sometimes. You know, if you have to back up everything, if you have to always find numbers, you know, you will never ship the product. It has to be out of the door, and intuition helps there. Doesn't mean that the developer or any other person doesn't have intuition. Can also have intuition, has also experience, you know. And if these people that work together and they talk and they work on the story of the product all together, probably they will take better decisions than one lonely designer or one lonely product owner. And what I'm stressing is that I don't believe that everything can or has to be proved with numbers, because it's too slow. Also, we human beings, we don't work like that. Of course, every big company, they're totally against this, and they love, and they say, yeah, talk, and blah, 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 but still, this is my opinion. In the end, you have to have a business mind also. You have to understand where the money comes from, and this influences your decisions. Of course, if a designer works in an organization and he just follows his ideas of beauty or how to work the world better, which is beautiful. I like very much this idea, but this doesn't work. I mean, but for me, this is clear. Yeah, of course, you have to take all these things in account if you're serious. You know, if you have to have something to give the business people, and also you have to make sure that you don't hurt the business. So it's not. Maybe some people, they get me wrong. I often have this situation. You know, it's not about to build a hippie place, you know, where there's the rainbow and people like that. But in the end, we have to pay, and shareholders demand their shares, and the market wants something from us. And when we are really professionals, we have to understand how this works, and it doesn't matter if we are a designer or somebody else, and we have to take all this kind of demands into account, and still we can follow our intuition, and I think it's absolute legitimate, der Name Englisch leaves me, legitim, ihr versteht das, also to use this sometimes. Read this, there's a very good book from Martin Neumeier. Who knows Martin Neumeier? Nobody. People. Here's Martin Norma. Martin? His name is Martin Norma, or? No? No? Oh God. Very bad names. But the book is called Meta Skills. I'm sure that it's called Meta Skills. Read this book. It's a very good book about this. Which skills are recommended or are necessary for us, for everybody to work in the 21st century. It's a wonderful book. I've seen him as a wonderful guy, as a designer. As a very old, not very old, but old guy. He has lots of experience. Has a very nice book writing style. It's a great book.
So practically speaking, from my side, the prioritizing of features, I achieve it by just setting a quota of in every Scrum there has to be at least a certain amount of time spent on non-functional requirements, and I'm part of the product requirements team, product management team to decide on them. Has to make sense with the feature that I implemented, obviously. And
but what is the base where you make the decisions from?
sorry?
What is the base where you make the decisions from? User research, or it's just what you're thinking, what is the fastest developed feature, and you will put this on the first.
No, there's a backlog of features, and has to fit within the new feature that come up. But it can be as well that some features are too expensive, and they have to wait. That's sometimes a bad situation and quite annoying, but have to be patient.
They prioritize the most of the things before the project itself starting. So there are a lot of subjects that could be done in a project, and it will recognize what the competitors are doing and all this stuff. It's mostly before the project is starting. So you have a lot of insights of what should your product do after that, and does anybody else do something like that, or do we do something totally boring?